what is up? And look at that. Oh my god, I'm here first. Angel Faye, you've made it. Welcome to being here first. Hello all, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and this is The Right Mindset. We are live every Saturday and Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means today is August 17th, a Sunday. And it is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So every Saturday we go over educational stuff, and every Sunday we do the Write a Book With Me series, Concept to Conception, which means we're in it to win it. Let's talk about what today is going on. Let's get that screen in. Boom, 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 boom. There it is. Bloop, bloop. And if we didn't see this earlier, because I know there's ads sometimes in the beginning, Angel Faye is first today. Welcome to everybody that is in the room. Hello, hola, salve, ciao, All right. If you don't know, we've been, if this is your first time and you're finding this video, this is the process we do. We are doing this book in the process of how I write the book, so you can see behind the screen. You're seeing it on the screen. I am doing everything in real time. We've already, over the course of 32 weeks, have done some brainstorming, character arcs, short form outlines, extended. We are officially on the zero draft. We are on the zero draft of the 15th chapter, by the way, so that's a lot of fun to know about. But more importantly, what is the zero draft? Zero draft is where I basically take the extended outline, which is what this is. Okay, we just pop it in there for chapter 15. And we're going to beat out the movement of the chapter. We're going to try to create moments, see how the pacing looks, etc., etc. Do we need to do more than one chapter for this? Is one chapter enough? Do we need more than one scene, etc., etc.? That is why we do the zero draft in this way. My zero drafts are a little different than traditional zero drafts, where you just write until something's there. In this way. Whereas with this, I'm trying to, what is going on here? How come it's not small? All right. Anyway, I'm basically trying to figure out, how the movement of the chapter works. Whereas a zero draft traditionally is just somebody writing and just trying to, it's like their first brainstorm or their first, their pantsing or whatever the case is. Mine is a little bit more controlled because I do the short form and then the extended and then this. Let's get into it. If you have any questions, by the way, while we are talking, while I'm doing this, feel free to ask questions on what I am doing, my choices, and of course, if you have writing questions for your own stuff, I'm a developmental editor and a writing teacher, so it's basically free advice, for the next hour, an hour and a half. All right, with that said, one other thing, there is a poll. What's your goal for the first draft? Let us know in the poll downstairs. Just saying. What is the book about? This book that we've been working on, it's a sci-fi book, and there's this movie called the $20 Bill or something like that. And is it $20 bill? I keep forgetting. It's either $10 bill or $20. $20 bill movie. It's 20 bucks. It's called, and it's called 20 bucks. And basically, this $20 goes around and like sees these different worlds. You just see the life of this $20 kind of going into different hands and stuff like that. That was the original purpose of the book. There's a ship, and Laura, the main protagonist, her ship brings us to these different areas, and then she basically has a life within that. And the book is technically broken up into multiple stories like that. So it starts off with her home place, her ordinary world. Then we get to another planet, which we've been at, and then she's in a prison, and eventually she's going to have to go to another planet, and then she goes to another planet, and then she finally gets home. But what is it about? It's about Laura Olivia ultimately living the life as a transporter. She's a transporter, and somebody who wants to be a romantic novelist, a romance novelist, and she gets sucked into this whirlwind experience, all because she has a ship in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she's just trying to get home and trying to survive. That's basically what it is. However, as we work on it, it will develop into whatever it should be, and that's the whole point of the series, is to tell you, if you outline or if you pants, whatever the case is, you're not beholden to the things you write down. You can change and adjust, and I recommend it. I recommend changing what you can and moving things around. All right, let's keep it going. So, the first thing I like to do is I like to bring this up and then work on everything. Okay. Remember, you don't have to be specific with this. You just have to be broad in general. However, whenever and wherever we can put a name for clarity, just put it. These are not prose. These are not pretty. They're just the movement of what needs to happen. Laura and the love interest are tossed into high security cells, separate from each other, but the love interest is in the next cell over. The guards beat. Okay. Let's put this here. All right. I'm actually going to. Hello, flowers. Your body's pro. Are you sick, flowers? Do we have to come over there with some chicken noodle soup? Do we have to give you some broth? What do you need from us? I know broccoli's good. Brushing your teeth apparently is like the cure for all things. So just brush your teeth more than once. I know that helps with the colds and stuff like that. But just know I am going to send some positive energy and healthy energy out to you. All right. For those who are just joining in, we are outlining Chapter 15. We're doing a zero draft. Ultimately, we're trying to figure out how the zero draft plays out. These are not prose. This is not pretty writing. This is just straightforward what needs to happen. And we're just sort of using the bullet points to help with the beat out and the move out. Yes, been in bed since 14:30, which is 12:30. Exhausted, sore throat, knee. I hope I didn't get you sick, because yesterday I had a little something going on in my throat. So if I got you sick through the internet, please know I'm sorry. Have you been drinking your tea? Have you been getting some honey down there? Look, you got to take care of yourself, but I'm glad you've been resting. We want flowers healthy and up and at 'em. Everybody send flowers some well thoughts and good energy, because we need to get her feeling and healing. All right. Let's see. Okay, so they get thrown out, but the love interest is in the next cell. The guards beat up the love interest because it turns out... Oh, hey, what do we got here? Funny, I'm also on 15 in my outline. Woohoo! It's like we're twinsing. I love it. Turns out that he hurt some of the other guards, and this is okay. So, all right. Well, that brings up something. Let's I have to go back. All right. Oh wait, you know what? I don't have to go back. We have parts where he hurts guards and stuff like that. So let's yeah, we have that stuff. I was just looking at the other chapter, chapter 14. We're done with 14. We turned it into 2 chapters. But I just wanted to make sure that it was there, and it is there. Okay, so that's good. We don't have to look at that. All right, what we got here? Hey, Afghani! Theoretically, first draft is to vomit words on paper, but in practice, I linger on it more than I plan. To be fair, though, the vomit chapter would technically be the zero draft. It's where you're trying to figure out what it is. The first draft is where you start writing a prose. So if you are doing the vomiting in prose form, then I would, yes, that is a first draft. But because you're answering the poll down there. Yeah. You don't want to linger too much, but we'll get to that. What's up, Thomas? Nothing but the sky and my spirits. Yeah. Take good care of your body, flowers. Yes. The first draft is the vomit draft. Yummy. I don't do zero drafts, and well, you don't have to. You know, it's really a choice. I do it for again. The more I can do with the foundational elements of the story to building, the easier it is to get those pros out. Especially, I think you were here yesterday when I was talking about positions and motivations. The more I understand the behind the scenes stuff, the better I can create character behavior, movements, and I can allow the narrative. If I may, in screenwriting, we've talked about how like every word, every line is basically money because every eighth of a page costs money. It increases the page. So since I come from a screenwriting background, when I jumped into long form narrative, my brain was like, how do I fundamentally keep the narrative moving where everything is sort of working for itself? And the only way I could find myself getting there is if I did a short form outline, the extended outline, and then I do the zero draft like I'm doing on the screen right now to help me beat out the movement or the pace of the big beats in the scene. Because then like all the immersion stuff and all the dialogue and everything like that does influence the pace, but I know that I'm keeping things moving. As long as I stick to those big beats from the zero draft while writing the pace out, and I'm using logical narrative movement, which is something that I've talked about in other videos, it really helps me keep the flow going. And remember, in film and television, you only have so many minutes, so you want to keep it going while also trying to, add context. Even though in a novel you could linger a little bit, you could slow things down, you could add stuff that might not even pay off sometimes, but you don't want to go too fluffy. But this is what that helps me with. That soda tastes disgusting. All right. I know I shouldn't be, but I had to start this story. You got to do what you got to do, my friend. You got to do what you got to do. No judgment here. If you look, I'd be a hypocrite if I said focus on one story. I have, let's see, I got how to outline. I got I'm doing like line editing and stuff for one of the other fantasy books. I'm basically writing the second book now. I'm outlining the third book. Well, I'm on the extended outline. I did the extended outline for another fantasy book, and I'm formatting the self-help book too. So that's 6 books I'm working on. But the way I get away with it is I do 30 minutes, blocks. I have the 2-hour block of writing, so I'll do 30 minutes. So that's 4 books I get to work on a day. Some books get a little bit more attention than others. So you got to do what you got to do. All right. Hello. I apologize for the poor accent. My representation of the poor accent. I did read through the resolution I'm working on, then realized I need another chapter. I don't know about you, but that kind of actually makes me happy. I'm just saying. Makes me happy because you're working on it, you're developing it, and you're going to see, like, as you expand it, it becomes what it has to become, But you could always, edit it down. I'm on chapter 2 of my second book. According to my rough outline, there will be 7 chapters, but may turn. Are you writing a short story or a novella? Because in a long form narrative, like a traditional book, that would just chapters alone, I would think that's really short. But in a short story or a novella, the 27 plot point outline definitely can shrink down, because you could start using, scenes and stuff like that. But I got long chapters in this one. Yeah, but even 7 to 6 chapters, that's, I'm assuming it's a short story. I'm assuming. If it's not, you definitely have to, you got to do something. Not a short story, but not sure how long it will turn out. Well, I recommend when you get finished with the book to go through and say, should this be broken into more chapters? All right, keeping it going. The guards beat up the love interest because it turns out hurt some of the other guards, and this is repercussion. Okay. Laura, I don't know why I wrote is, but remember, these aren't prose, these aren't clean. I'm just saying what it is. But as you can see, like no one's gonna write a prose like that. Laura is telling them, By the way, if you were doing line editing, that would be like if you wrote Laura is telling, like you'd be like, wait a minute, why can't Laura tells them to stop, right? But you could also be, stop beating them. You could create dialogue. But again, this isn't really about dialogue. My chapters are basically split into days on this unique planet. That's still a really cool idea. I love the concept. I'm just saying, just from a developmental editor standpoint, without looking at it, without having eyes on it, 6 or 7 chapters for a full 81,000 word book. that would mean that each chapter is about 10,000 words or more. And that just that alone, saying that out loud, my brain is like, the pacing must be off the charts, you know. So you got to, but if you break those up into bite size, you actually get a little bit more out of it. What does it say? I'm reading, writing the Cozy Mystery Extended Second Edition through my Kindle. Oh, writing the Cozy Mystery. What do you, in the comments while I'm working on this? Feel free to tell us Tell us 3 things you feel you learned, or you know what? No, I don't have to give you homework. Tell us one big thing that you learned from reading, writing the Cozy Mystery. That would be. Hey, Chabello, currently having a breakdown over how much olive oil I'm using. Salve, mia amica. Emma. Well, yeah, remember, you can never have too much olive oil. You know, as my grandmother said, if you can't have a heart attack at the table, are you really eating an Italian meal? We do love homework. We do love homework. Speaking of, I've been filling up and adding up on the Patreon thing for the big release. I'm having a lot of fun with that. I just posted something that apparently Patreon has like a countdown release thing, so that's really fun. It's really fun. Got like 15 days till the release. All right, let's see. Laura tells him to stop, and the warden steps in front of her. Telling her that she can't get out now, and this escape attempt changes everything. No, like that. All right. The warden walks away. All right. Okay. What we got here? What do we got here? Spent the day gardening. Excellent. Too long in the sun. True. Could be the first chapter of Call Me Mr. Potato Head. I love it. You know, I grew up on a farm. Not necessarily grew up like a farmer, but like my best friend in Ocala, Florida. I used to ride horses and ponies and donkeys on the farm as a young lad, and they used to just take the eggs from the chickens. So the gardening was like, that's what the grandparents used to always do with them. Mr. Tomato Head. Hey. Oh, all right. That you need to find. You need to find the genre. Create a reliable world for your reader. Create characters that your reader can connect with. This book has 125 pages. Currently on page 22, chapter 4, which is about a web of suspects. I like it. And just for anyone who doesn't know, she's reading, writing the Cozy Mystery. I love it. I like books like that. You know, they kind of break down and analyze and tell you a little bit about everything. Laura freaks out, upset that she's never going to get out of here. All right. Laura bangs on the door. No one is listening. Oh, yeah. The love isn't tells her bang on the door isn't going to get them out. Change this. This is a common conversation, but I want the subtext of that kind of conversation. All right. I'm going to create this as a new beat. I was born in a caravan. Really? In a field? That's an interesting... See, this is the thing about people. We are all so unique. Like, the lives we grow up, and it's like, we walk past people every day. We don't understand what got them to that moment. But, like, if you just ask a couple questions, you find some amazing things. Like, being born in a caravan, in a field, and a farm, that is a story in itself. Like, that's a whole life. I'm just saying, it's interesting to realize that whatever we think we know about life, there's always somebody that's lived something more beyond our experiences. And it also has a breakdown about character development too. That's probably going to be a very, very good chapter. All right. The love interest tells Laura. They're banging on the door. Like, change this. changes to a less common conversation, but I want the subtext of that kind of conversation where they aren't going anywhere. Now, the reason is because, by the way, this is supposed to be plot point 15 we're working on because it's chapter 15. And for anyone who doesn't know, the 27 plot point outline, chapter 15 is the immediate reaction or consequences of the midpoint conflict, known as the reversal. Consequences could be good or bad, but in this case, it is fairly negative because they tried to escape. They thought they could get out, and they are now in a higher security cells. And, you know, they're like, hey, you know, ultimately, the chapters 16, 17, and 18 is all going to be about finding a solution to get out of here. It's nothing but clearly he's hurt, and she knows it. Laura apologizes for him getting all caught up in this. She hurts. Her ankle hurts a bit more. Reactive. The pain caused her. We'll just her ankle hurts. All right. So I'm the one who should be sorry, but I promise that we'll get out of here alive some way, somehow. All right. So something that I want you to understand about this process is sometimes when we take an extended draft or extended outline, whatever, a lot of times it is like almost the full chapter. It's basically everything that needs to be hit in that chapter. That's what I really like about the extended draft, is because when I throw it into the zero draft, it doesn't always have to be expanded greatly. The thing that makes me go back and add a lot more is as I go through the whole all the zero drafts, I'm starting to learn stuff, or I'm starting to develop stuff, so then I have to go back and seed. And the seeding is where, because I've talked about this before, I basically go all the way to the end, then I read through and I take notes, and then I'll add more stuff. So sometimes it's just a matter of organizing the beats a little clearer from the extended draft outline to the zero draft. Sometimes it's about taking stuff out, cleaning up the words a little bit. Not that it matters, because none of this is staying. We're gonna write prose in place of it. But at the same time, it's just nice to sort of organize it and kind of get a look and see how it's moving. And we know that this is going to be a little slower chapter. Now, why is that important to know? Well, because the midpoint conflict just happened, and now we're going to sort of like go, we got to go, what just happened? How do we sit in that? Because remember, if they tried to escape the prison, and there was a lot of action, and they were running around, it was 2 chapters of this and that, and, they almost got out, but then they're hurt, You don't want the next chapter to be high energy like that. You want it to be like, well, what is the deal? What are they dealing with? Where are they mentally, emotionally? Spiritually, whatever the case is. So this, even though we're not adding a lot to this right now, it's a way to sort of say what is going on here, and it looks like they're both sort of like getting organized into it. But I could do, Laura and the Levengers are tossed into a high security cell, which means I'm not going to show them being pulled to the cell. Remember, start, medius, whatever. Start in the middle, end early. So separate from each other, but, so I could say this, I could say Laura is tossed into her cell, hitting her head, and reactivating her ankle pain from the escape attempt. All right. Laura can't see, but she can hear what's happening in the cell. Happening to the love interest in the cell beside her. So I added a little bit more. Um, but this just, again, this is creating beats, right? So this is the establishing opening shot, which is very like right in your face, you know, like which will be interesting, you know, like, oh, you know, since it's gonna be first person, you could even, it might be like, you know, my hands couldn't get up quick enough to stop my face from smashing into the wall as they tossed me into the cold hard cell, you know. Uh, uh, Even my ankle popped again as I whatever, you know, I tried to get up. But it's just creating the beats. So, you know, she's being tossed into the cell, as is the love interest, which, by the way, I might do this. I mean, show Laura watching them throw the love interest into to his cell first. The reason I want to do that is because if it's in first person, we only see what she sees. But this is also establishing a physical, or I should say, establishing the physical geography. Geography. So one of the important elements of being a novelist, a writer, that a screenwriter doesn't really necessarily have to worry about is the spatial element. You do have to worry about it a little bit as a screenwriter, but since it's a visual medium, you know, if two people were in a cell and you set up the establishing shot, you know, in the screenplay that goes, the two buddies are in a cell together. But in a book, you know, if you want to allow us to sort of feel it and see it and experience it, you gotta create the spatial element of it. You know, like, where is everybody? You know, who's here, what's there, if they're sitting around a table, who's in front of who, you know, stuff like that. So the geography is important. It's very important. And we talked about that in an earlier chapter where she's walking around the city. So that's one way to establish the city layout is landmarks. So if you're writing like epic fantasy, let's say, and they're in a new village and you know they're going to be spending time in the village or the city or whatever the case is, you know, just mention, you know, if they're walking past like the main tavern, you know, the tavern, you know, whatever it's called, you know, like Billy Boob's Bop Boop Boop Boop's Tavern, you know, whatever. Like if they just walk through the gate, you know, oh, I entered the city of and you know, on the right, music blasted from the not that you'd write blasted, but music poured from the tavern through the magical instruments of bards or whatever like that. The tavern of blah 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 blah. You know, as I walked in, I kept myself going down Main Street until I reached the inn of blah 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 blah, right on the cusp of the switching neighborhoods. One clearly more poor than the other. And what that does is if you end up having like a chase scene or you have characters moving at high speed, you can literally be like, he just ran, you know, they just ran past the tavern. And you're just like, oh, well, I know where they are. They're near the main door, the main gate, and they're on the main road street. And geography really helps because it takes away the white room syndrome, and it also adds a little bit more movement, and it just becomes more cinematic, you know. But you should do that with crime too. You know, streets are important. Like if you're writing a crime novel, streets are important. Towns are important. The color of houses are important. All that's important. All right. Let's see. The gods beat up the love interest because it turned. The gods beat up the love interest. Let's just clean this up. The love interest had hurt some of the other guards, and this is repercussion. Am I spelling that right? Repercussion, yeah. All right. Laura tells them to stop. Begs them to stop. Ooh, look, it's an active verb. All right. Begs them to stop, and the warden steps in front. Steps in front. Okay, I'm gonna bring this in. He tells her. I should just say. The warden tells her she can't get out now, and her failed escape changes everything. Okay, basically, innocent or not, Not. She's officially a criminal. By the way, if anyone has any questions about what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, my choices, or if you have questions about your own writing, feel free to ask in the comments. I'm happy to switch the focus and answer any questions that come my way. You know how I do's. All right. Laura freaks out, upset that she's never gonna get out of here. Banging on. All right. Or family. There. Probably. Actually, this wouldn't be important right now. So there you go. I just made a decision narratively. So like right now, this is the immediate consequences and reaction to the inciting incident. So if I allow her to sort of partake in her thought of like her family and everything, that's kind of dripping into plot point 16, which would be where the protagonist reflects on the long-term impacts of the inciting incident. So again, this is how you use the 27 plot point outline. I know that chapter 15 is specifically for the 15th plot point right now, based on how we're doing this. So it has to all touch on the immediate reaction or consequences of the midpoint conflict. All right, and that's why this conversation still works, because this is ultimately, the love interest is like, you're not the one who needs to be sorry. I'm the one who got you in here. But we're gonna get out of here. Okay. So that's why when I wrote, she's, Laura misses her father. I can't do that. It would slow down the pace way too much, and it would be, the information wouldn't be the important information. The important information right now is the immediate reaction and consequence. All right, let's do this. I feel good about this right now. Let's do a little number count. Boop. 268. 268. 268. What we got here? Oh. Bloop. The character development this book has, the one I'm reading, is so helpful as I just came up with stuff that I was stuck before. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Do you, feel free to share any insight that you have for those things. We always like to ba-doom-ba-ding-bang, listen and we listen and we don't judge. Is that what they say? We listen and we don't judge. All right. Let's get into it. Okay. I think there's two. Yeah, so there's going to be two scenes here. So let's... Take time with a wounded hand. Greetings, Thomas, and everyone. Hey, Ro. Hello. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the party. Could I have the same chapter title for other chapters for the 6 beats that are multi-scenes? I mean, yeah, you could. It might be a little confusing. Unless, of course, it says, chapter 4 title, whatever it is, bloop, bloop. And then chapter 2, bloop, bloop. That's fine, because the chapter 2 would indicate it's a new chapter. But if they were all just, it was like you turn the page and you're like, bloop, bloop, then I just read bloop, bloop. That might be a little confusing. Yeah, I think it's, the link is not visible in the chat. I'll post it in the comments section. Excellent. Excellent. You're so lovely. Also, Em, remember to reach out to me on makearightlefthere.com because you are a YouTube member under the membership. I want to give you the Patreon thing. I want to give you the free membership over there because of. All right. I just didn't get an email from you, so I just want to kind of nudge you, just to remind you. I'm gonna give you something nice. Anyway, all right. Let's see. All right. Okay. The warden. Oh, so this is chapter 16. So now we are officially in Act 2, Section 6, which is all about finding a solution. This is the descending fall from the midpoint conflict. Ultimately, plot point 16 is the protagonist reflects on the long-term impacts of the midpoint conflict, and it is the consequences. Just thinking of Emma earlier, there is a Look, you're all gonna make me hungry. I just want to put that out there. Okay. So anyway, so now we are on the reflection. So what you'll notice in this chapter is it'll be more internal journey and what's to come. Like we got to find a solution kind of thing. All right. So the warden comes back after 3 days and speaks with the. Ooh, okay. Let me do this. 1 second. Potential chapter title. 3 days later. All right. The warden comes back after 3 days and speaks with the love interest. Talking with them about how. The evidence they have on him showing that the love interest was on the ship too. Therefore, part of the crime. Right. Part of the crime. My chair is falling down. All right. I'm pretty excited. We just did one full chapter already. Look at that. 30 minutes in. See, again, it's not that much. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But it's not that much. You just keep at it. You just drill at it. Like I do an hour on this while talking, while stopping, while doing other things. And, that's the thing about writing. That's the theory about write every day. I don't think you should have to write every day, especially if you don't have the time. But as you all know, I write every day, but I have the time, right? So, but at the same time, it's about the consistency. So if you just write, at least every week, you're gonna get through it. You're gonna make it happen. Yeah, Will Do Thomas had a trowel and spade in my hands all day, so no fingers left for anything else. I mean, that's a fair. It's totally fair. I've posted a link in the Facebook group. Whoa! Wonderful. Wonderful. For anyone who is not in the Facebook group, it's a private group. You don't have to sign up. You just got to say you want to join. Here is the link. I would, feel free to check it out later or whatever the case is. But it's a lot of fun there, Sometimes we say stuff. I'm just saying. Sometimes we don't, though. Sometimes we don't say anything. Sometimes it's quiet for Oh, thank you. I appreciate the kindness. Yeah, everyone there is very loving and supporting. No one's like, meh. Imagine, meh. All right. All right, where are we? Oh yeah. Okay. Laura is like, hey. Laura stands up. Her ankles still hurt. She leans on the door and looks barred window. Okay. All right. Barred. Barred? Okay. Hey, no longer on Facebook. That's okay, Ro. We don't judge here. Honestly, if I didn't have to be on social media, I probably would still not be on social media. There are people. What's funny is like sometimes my clients are like, "How do I market more?" And I explain like what to do on social media. And like, you don't do it, and I was like, I don't. I'm not the one who's saying I want it. If you want it, you got. Like people are like, "Oh, you got to post 4 times a day on TikTok," and I'm like, I don't even want to post once. TikTok's a scary place, But I'm also 47, so maybe I'm just afraid of technology. I'm just sitting here like. Yeah, so TikTok. Like, what am I going to do with that? We'll figure it out. Haven't been for about 9 years. Look, it's a scary place. Everything is a scary. Social media is scary. All right. Her ankles still hurt, and she leans on the door and looks through the bar window. I'll help you get the gang if you let me out. I said, I'm innocent. They hijacked me and my ship. All right. That's true. Love interest. Said. Oh, wait, we can't see him, so love interest said. All right, anyway. What we got here? I don't even know where TikTok is. It's in the bowels of hell. My clock goes TikTok. Yeah, that's really it. That's it. I open TikTok to promote my writings. I see the appeal. It's pretty addictive. I mean, it definitely is addictive. I once spent 6 hours just scrolling through ghost videos. I was so bored. I didn't mean to. I was just like, let me take a 10-minute break. And I laid down on my bed and I'm just laying there and I'm just like, oh. And it's just like supposed to be ghost videos. I know they, most likely they're all fake, but I'm just interested in ghost stuff. And I'm just like, and then I'm just sending it to people. And then it got dark outside and I was like, what time is it? I was like, oh my God, I got to eat dinner. It's terrible. Was using up too much time to keep up with everyone. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with social media. It's like, it's just over. It's like, wow, it's always stimulated. It's in the internet somewhere. The only platform I'm not in is the TikTok. Isn't TikTok supposed to go, well, in the States it's supposed to go. I don't know about over the pond area or even Australia or anywhere else. I think in the States they're like, we have 2 of you, and that's good enough for us. All right. Is the leader of gang. He's wanted by XYZ. So here we're just sort of creating some dialogue with, comment about how the love interest is a rat. Ooh, makes a comment. The love interest. Being a rat. Ratting on his partners. Okay, love interest says. All right, so why did I do that? Why did I move this over? Because this initial beat is basically about, look, let me out and I'll help you get the gang, right? And then the love interest says, actually, I should do this. Boop, boop. And now it switches to the actual leader of the gang. So this is more about Laura Olivia's beat. So this is the introduction, the setup. And now we're getting to the conflict of the scene, which is this moment. There are a lot of eyes on the TikTok for sure. My TikTok was pretty good. Like I had a pretty good run on it, but then after my dog died, because my mom and then my dad died like right now, and then my dog died, and I was just like, I need a break. But I was getting like really good responses and everything. Like I had like lots of likes and everything. But it was just the real secret to social media, just for anyone who cares. Like even YouTube. It's about doing these bulk recordings. Like, and I used to do that. I used to record all my whole month of TikTok. But they were all minutes or less, and then I would just save them, and then I would just upload them. 3 a week I did, and that's safe because then you're not like, let me record something, let me upload it. It was just like I spent a couple days, and then it was just done. Not saying my content get much of those eyes, but they're there. Well, if you're on there just saying, look at my book, buy my book, hey, I'm a writer, that might not be as interesting as adding a solution or like giving value. Like, why are you a writer is probably more interesting than you are a writer. Or if you do video, I don't watch your video. I don't know your video because I'm not on TikTok. But content that has a connection through empathy and not necessarily like, hey, check me out, usually does better. So if your videos showed your expertise in writing, like what you're learning, if you do your trials and tribulations or your failures and successes or how you overcame things, that gets more interaction than I have a book. I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just saying I'm talking to people in general. I don't know. All right. The warden makes a comment. My boys watch not but brain rat on the TikTok. Oh, Dad, have you seen this? It's funny. Skibidi to it. First of all, I know I'm saying that wrong. Second of all, I hope that's how it's said. Skibidit spidi to yet. I feel like that's like, I know it's not, but I'm like, is that Gaelic? Or Gaelic? What is, I was thinking about, I don't know. I can't remember. What we got? Why isn't it all popping up? Oh, there's Shibbity Sigma with Big Riz. My eldest grandson showed me that. The shiggity biggity Big Riz? No, I was. What's funny about a man down the loo? He fell down the loo. It's hysterical. We have two of you. That's good enough for us. All right, the love interest says that the person they would want is the leader. One says that the love interest is a rat. It says you have to be a partner and loyal to be a rat. This guy gave up Laura to die and does nothing. That is coded in the way of this life. Why did I write that? The reason I wrote that is because is that right? Did I spell it right? Yeah, that's right. World building is all about those things. Like, not really explaining this, but like if the characters are using the slang or the lingo, because like in Pirates of the Caribbean, they go, you got to stick to the code, and then they're just like, well, it's more like guidelines, right? And first of all, you need to be a pirate, to abide by the pirate code. But so that's how you think of it, but you wouldn't say we have a code we live by, and that code, like we don't do that. Toilet. Oh, I get it. Skitty bitty toilet. I get it. But the Utes love it. Excuse me. I'm sorry. 2 Utes. I'm sorry. 2 youths. My cousin Vinny. Party humor is always a winner for the boys. Puns. And most men. That's true. Can't go wrong with body humor. All right. So Warden says they have to speak to him first to even consider any interest. All right. But he's probably not going to tell anyone. At least that's the vibe. Gives Laura and the love interest. All right. Boop, 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 boop. So, if we look at this scene real quick, this sets it up. She's like, "Hey, I'm innocent. Get me out. I could help you get the gang if you let me out. And they're like, no. And then the love interest is like, well, the guy you really want is the main guy, and he's wanted by all these other people, so he's the bigger fish. I'll write that. The gang leader is the bigger fish. Fishy, fishy, I'm going fishy. And fattest by a mile. That's from Shawshank Redemption. And then I end it with the conclusion. This is the resolution of the scene. So there's a beginning, middle, and end. And the resolution leaves us with will he, won't he, but potentially there could be a way out. So when you're writing a scene or a chapter, you got to remember, a scene doesn't need 27 plot points, nor does a chapter. But there does need to be a clear beginning to set up the context. Then you need a challenge or a conflict or a problem to that context, and then you need to resolve it while moving your narrative forward. Now, as you can see, this chapter has 2 major scenes, and both scenes are ultimately accomplishing the protagonist reflects on the long-term impacts of the midpoint conflict. So before I go into this part, I don't. Who wouldn't like that, right? So before we move on to the second scene, I want to say this scene showcases the potential for the long-term effect. Listen, you have both of us. I'm telling you, I will help you. Let me get it out. The love interest is like, yeah, she's innocent, bro. But also, I know how you can get the main guy. So if you want the main guy, and that's talking about long-term. So to be clear, just because plot point, for example, if I show it to you on the screen, just because plot point 16, the protagonist reflects on the long-term impacts of the midpoint conflict, the consequences, just because that's what it says, doesn't mean it has to literally be the protagonist sitting down, pontificating, or, becoming the thinking man, like, what is going on? It's just the information has to basically infer or suggest or explore the potential for what's to come, or where, how are they going to fix this? What is going on with their situation? So it doesn't always have to be, thinking or saying outright, like, hey, we are stuck. What should we do? Like, it doesn't always have to be that. It could be an exploration of potential. Same thing with action, like the plot points that are like, they take action, or, they decide to take action. They don't actually have to, like, go into a battle or fight. Action is just that it's the agency of choice. So they choose to call the girl up and be like, hey, I was wondering if we could go on a date. Like, that's action. It doesn't have to be, action doesn't mean, like, they're driving the car down the highway. you know. Thank you for clarifying that, Thomas. Anytime, Mr. Rowe. I say that because when I was first really getting into writing even screenplays, I would take things literally. I would take literally. I don't even remember what the number was, and you have to realize there are many ways. 232. There are many ways. 232. There are many ways to show what it is that happens. Like, for example, what's another thing? Like, the inciting incident doesn't have to be a physical thing. Like, aliens don't have to come down from space. It could be an internal thing. Like, they're devastated by something. They feel, they realize they have a fear. They can't move forward doing something. Or, in a romance, it's they have a meet cute. So an inciting incident doesn't have to be this grand explosive thing. It can be intimate and small. But that's the thing. Like, all your plot points, you should be looking at them that way. They don't always have to be these explosions. They could be these tiny, small, intimate things that change their world, that move them, that create the fallout, that are the consequences. You have a spectrum of nuance that you have at your fingertips to explore these plot points without feeling like, well, it says the protagonist's life has changed and they are pushed through pressure, right? In plot point 7, right? The protagonist's life changes as a result of the action they took, and it creates pressure and stress. But pressure and stress doesn't have to be, they're fighting armies off. It could be as simple as they have the pressure and stress of responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could just be like, all right, your mother went away for vacation, and now I got to take care of the kids, and I had to take off of work for a week, and all I know is construction. So I'm out of my depths, and that's pressure and stress. The action they took in that scenario would be that they were like, yeah, you go and have your vacation. I'll take off from work, And then the response to that is ultimately the boss is like, look, I can only... you're gonna get a week. If you do anything more than a week, I might have to let you go because I need to replace you then. And they're like, whatever, do whatever you got to do. And then the long term, whatever the case is, plot point 7, they are dealing with the kids. That's the pressure. Plus the pressure of, well, I hope she's only gone for a week because I got to go back on Monday. But that's the thing. That's the new. It's all nuance. It's all nuance. I do that as well. Yeah, it's the problem. That's what happens. We, our brains. We're writers, so it's, it's literally, where it says. I have a friend who is a client also, but they don't like lyrical novels. They like everything to just be like, they entered the room, they sat on the throne. They like it just simple. They entered the room. The room was the stone floors. The stone floors covered the entire area and lifted up to half the size of the wall. Across from the entrance, across from the entrance, there the kings sat on their throne. Like, they like it like that. And I was showing them something that was a little bit more lyrical. And they're like, what does that even mean? And I said, it means this. And they're like, well, why don't you just say that? Because sometimes our brains are analytical and we're just looking like, is it this or is it that? But if you are going to write lyrical, just make sure it's clear, though. You want clarity over lyrical, because it could fall into like being purpley prosy, which is just like you're trying to find the biggest possible words you can find. But in reality, you're trying to find the right words for what you're writing. But anyway, I'm gonna say we ended here. All right. Did you add little tips like that in the outline book as well? You mean like what I just explained there? The book is filled with that. So basically, the format is I introduce the subject, I explain, what it is, and then why you do it, the importance of doing it, and then there's some sort of insight into like my approach to not everywhere, obviously, it's set up of, you don't want everything to be like that, but the way it reads is it basically is like, what is this? the introduction, what is this? Why? How you use it, and why you use it, and then within that structure, I give some insight to my own experiences and to clients and stuff like that. But I do use a lot of popular examples. I'll use a lot of popular movies for examples, and I talk about that in the introduction of the book, where I go, I could have used books and stories and talked about Harry Potter and talked about this, but the problem is if you wanted to take these lessons in the book and apply them to study or analyze, it's easier to do that in a 3-minute scene that you're watching than it is to read 3,000 words or to read 6,000 words. You know, especially if like 3 chapters took up plot point 1, how are, you know, you're reading 6,000 words or 9,000 words, and then you have to analyze that. It's easier to see a scene. So I use film to explain what's unfolding in plot points and why it's unfolding and how it's unfolding. But the book is for novel writing, or more importantly, it's for outlining narratives. But specifically, it leans towards novels, like long-form novels. But a screenwriter can use the book. Anyway, all right, so we're going to end here. We did pretty good. All right, let's see. What do we got? We got 7 votes on the poll. I'll give that a little longer. We'll give that a little longer. So if you haven't already, the poll is, what's your goal for the first draft? Feel free to vote. I'm noticing a trend that one of the 4 is usually not chosen. So that's been something. What is it? Have to leave the room for a short bit. All right, Ro, be careful out there and remember to wipe twice. All right. We've hit the bottom of the hour. We hit the top of the hour, the bottom of the hour. We're in the next hour, and I always give the floor to the audience. So if you have questions lingering, or you have stuff that you want to ask about writing in general, it could be about your book. It doesn't have to be. Just be writing questions in general. Feel free to ask those. While we're waiting for the questions to start flowing in, because I know there is a time delay between what I say and where it goes, let me do my spiel. If you don't know, you can actually go to makearightleftheere.com and you can see where my books are at, the progress I've made on them. You can see where you can find me, for example, social media or in person, where I may be teaching, where you may be able to hear me speak, whatever they can. You could also email me through makearightleftheere.com. So feel free to do that. Work-related issue. That's what she said. All right. Other than that, if you like what you've been watching and you're really enjoying this series, but you haven't committed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. I know I should have did this a little bit more throughout the show, but hey, like and subscribe. Liking the video definitely helps the algorithm. So if you haven't blooped the beard, bloop the like button. We all make it happen. Other than that, ooh, what do we got here? Bye, Thomas. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes. My book, as Ro is saying, the book is available. It's available for consumption on Amazon, but you can go to makearightleftheere.com and find the link to the book. The book is out. It's a success. It's how to break down success. Well, actually, I break down the success. So it's breaking down success, and then it's the first book in a 5-book series. All the books are done. I'm just formatting them and getting them ready for a release every 6 months. The next one should come out in January. But this book is the foundation of it all. So it teaches you how to create the foundation for that longevity, specifically in a creative field. So whether you're a writer, comedian, actor, musician, whatever, producer, it'll tell you how to set up that foundation for longevity. And I know some of you in here already bought it, and I'm very grateful for that, by the way. Very grateful for the love and support as always. Approximately how much money do illustrators charge for a book cover? For me, I would charge a price dependent on what you're looking for, how complex of it. I did that. I did those these covers. I did this cover. Here's a better shot of the cover. I did this cover. I did this cover. I do all my covers. This is my favorite cover so far, though, for my self-help books. So to answer your question, approximately how much do I charge? Honestly, it could be anywhere from X amount of dollars per hour, depending on your budget, to a flat rate, which could be as much as, $500. But it depends. I have conversations with people, because I've had people that ask me to do covers I'm literally making everything from scratch. I have to make all the shapes and the designs. Like, yeah, I'm an illustrator. I used to draw all the time. It was my passion. I started in comic books, and one thing led to another, and I stopped. And I became a musician, and I switched careers. But yeah, I was an illustrator / comic artist. I almost worked for Disney. I almost worked for TSR, which is Dungeons & Dragons. It's Wizard of the Coast now. Back when I was young. I was 18. I was a young boy. I was a young boy. And one thing led to another, and you never know. It all gets weird. Let's see if I can find. Let's see if I can find a photo, an old photo of my art. Do I even have anything left? I don't know. Do I have? I should just. It's been a while since I even looked at this stuff. Let's see. Downloads? No. Facebook? I know it's on my Facebook. You could always find it on my Facebook. But, oh, yeah, here we go. Let's see. Let me see. Oh, the shadows and stuff are going to make it look a little difficult to read, but boop. This is a little picture I did. I'll show you a little picture. Oh, you're heading out? All right, I'll see you later. Good night. Good night, Angel Faye. I took this picture. This is just me taking a picture of the picture. But that's like a little thing I did way back in the day, though. This is really old. This is before. Yeah, that's old. Do I have any other ones? Let's see if I have another one. What else? Do I have anything else? I got this little one. Is this a little? Wait, where's my? I got one that I really like. I can't find it here. I guess I don't have it in this folder. Anyway, I don't have it in this folder. Oh well. Maybe it's on the drawings. Jesus. Oh, art. Art? I don't know. Art? Drawings. Drawings. No, it's not there. I don't have it on my computer anymore. But anyway, yeah. What is it still doing up? Let me get that down. Boop. Sorry about that. What we got? I'm heading out. Could someone pay you to draw their cover? Back, by the way. Hello, Ro. I guess I could draw the cover. I would probably do it on the computer, though. I wouldn't draw it longhand like that. I wouldn't pencil it. But, yes. Depending on the intricacy, I could do it. I'm on chapter 3139 in my outline and in B30. I thought you were on chapter 15. I've been writing one paragraph for the multiply scene beats and put the chapters at the end of each one. That's a good way to do it. If I think you're talking about like how you're outlining and stuff like that. So that's good. Yeah. A summary of what has to happen in the chapter. That's always the way to go. There's nothing wrong with that method. In fact, the summary aspect is really good, especially for character outlines. What else? Oh, I did 2,700 words last night on this book. 2,700 words. I'm telling you, I'm flying through this book. I am just so passionate about writing this book. It's been a lot of fun. All right, let's get to the votes. So the poll says, what's your goal for the first draft? We have get words down fast. Make it as good as possible, 71%. Just a starting point, I don't really have a plan. Boom. All right. The winner of the poll is, and I say this lovingly, unfortunately, make it as good as possible. Your first draft is not meant to even be good. The first draft is all about crap. The reason I say that is because you don't know the story well enough or the characters well enough. And you might, going in, you might be like, I spent years just thinking about this story. But there's a difference between thinking about a story and then writing out prose. In fact, I bet you, and please, anyone in the comment section, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way you think about a scene and how you see it flow out in your head and then you go to type it, there's a disconnect. Because the way our brains work and see things play out, like even a film, getting that in word form is a whole other process, right? So, I know I shouldn't, but that's how I started, so I've continued. Yes. Look, there's nothing wrong with wanting it to be as good as possible, but the pressure of believing that it must be good as possible, right? Because the faster you could get the words down and get to the end of the book, the stronger your book will be, because you'll be able to go back, you'll be able to read things, you'll be able to take notes, you'll be able to adjust things. You're just not going to be aware of the pace and the greater details in a first draft. You're still discovering who the characters are, whether you know who they are or not, especially in a first book. Not a first book ever, but I mean like a first book in a series. But ultimately, you don't know who the characters are until, we talked about this yesterday, until at least halfway through the book, because their voices come out. Your voice as an author. If you look at, and I recommend doing this, read your first chapter and then read your last chapter you wrote. Hopefully it's more than, I'm not saying read your first chapter and read your fourth chapter. I'm saying read your first chapter and then read like chapter 15 or 20 or 27. Your style of writing is going to be slightly adjusted. And the reason is because the further you get through your book, the more you start developing your voice and all these things like that. I saw it in my book, the contrast between how I wrote it initially and how it turned out after I added things I didn't think of at the time. And that's the reality of it. And that's a good thing. All I'm saying is, while you're writing your first draft, you don't... While you're writing your first, I'm trying not to be negative here. While you're writing the first draft, refrain from placing such pressure on you to think it needs to be publish ready. It doesn't even have to be polished. In fact, I wouldn't even worry about grammar. I wouldn't worry about spelling. I wouldn't even worry about names. And like, I don't have a name for this person. Just do a placeholder and just do name A or name B. So when you do Control F and you do have a name for that person, you just Control F, name A, replace it with Robert. Because in reality, just like Afghani said, the contrast between how I wrote it initially and how it turned out after I added things, right, that you didn't think of. Because as you're writing, he even adds, when I added stuff like emotional conflict, protagonist has some sort of PTSD that I thought about much later. And that's why the first draft is basically, and I think Afghani's actually said it earlier, much earlier in the episode, it's a throw-up draft. It's an ass draft. It's just get it out. Because as you're writing, you're going to discover stuff like, oh, the protagonist has PTSD. So now I got to go back and I got to see that behavior and that reality. And maybe, just maybe, I'll see the backstory. Maybe that's interesting enough. Maybe that's interesting enough to elevate the narrative to be more than I thought it was, which might have been the plot is, I got to get the sword of Bloop Bloop. But now you realize it's not about the sword. It's about these characters, and it's about their struggles, and it's about whatever. You're not going to know that no matter how much work you do beforehand. Even like what we're doing, the outlining, I don't know the stuff that's going to be in this book by the end of the time we finish this book. It's going to continue to grow and evolve. And knowing that gives me the freedom to not feel the pressure of it has to be perfect. I mean, look at these simple descriptions. I'm not even thinking about like, all right, the warden comes back, but how do they come back? The warden, you know, comes back with a snarky attitude. No. The warden comes back. His face dark around the eyes. No. I mean, how does he come back? Like, imagine I spent, because I'm not here to spend that kind of time. I'm here to just get it out and make sure it's there, because I'm going to slowly be building on it. And the idea that the first draft should be as good as possible is the activator. You know, there's no forward motion. Cool, I write crap like I have diarrhea. Sweet smell of success. Woohoo! Victory is yours. But you know, the final thought on it, I guess, is ultimately write as good as possible. This is something I think is important. All right. Brandon Sanderson does not write literature. He writes very sellable books. He writes books that young adults can read, I would even say middle grades. Everything is very straightforward. But why his books, quote unquote, resonate so much is because there's something deeper going on. And that's what makes a writer. It is not about how pretty your prose are. It is not about the big words you use. It's not how descriptive can you get with this thing. It's how does the description tell the deeper story? How do the pretty words and the prose go deeper into who these characters are and their emotional connection to that moment? If you're not going to use pretty words, believe it or not, simple phrasings can still become amazing writing, because it's about characters. It's who they are, why they are. It's their experiences. It's how they're behaving. It's something deeper than I need my prose to look great. And you're not going to get to that deeper meaning until you get through the first draft. You go back, you read, you take notes, and you go, I need the seed, I need the foreshadow, I need Chekhov's gun. Okay, but I also need to show behavior. I need to represent these characters' beliefs and their positions. I need these characters to have agency. I need characters to be pushed back on. And it's those things that make great writing. Whether you have the most immaculate grammar or it's basically 11th grade writing, it is the depth behind the words that makes true great writing. I hope that inspires and doesn't deflate anyone, because what I'm saying is, whatever your skill level is, your craft level of the writing part, the words part, the wordsmith craft, know that it's going to take you years to develop and explore that. But you as a writer might already have inside you great characters, interesting depth, emotional truth, because you've experienced things. That's the part that goes into these characters, whether you're a murder in a crime thriller, or you're writing a romance, or you're a vampire, right? You may not be a murderer, you may not be living the romance, and you may not be a vampire, but you have experienced emotion. You have hurt. You had loved. You had feared. You had all these wonderful things, and that's the part inside you that will make you the great writer. The words part, you're always going to be developing. Even in acting, Brad Pitt's first movie versus Brad Pitt's latest movie he did, they're not the same person. Yeah, he's Brad Pitt, but they're not the same person. His acting skill and you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, if you took Brad Pitt today and put him into his first 3 movies, even if you put him in A River Runs Through It or Legend of the Fall, those performances would be off the charts, and they were good. But that screenplay, those movies, you probably could have put a clown in those roles, and the movie would have been amazing. But my point is depth. Yeah. What do we got here? Do the scenes have to be in the beginning, middle, of the end of it? What? Hannah, I don't think I understand the question. So if you could clarify that question, I will be more than happy to answer it. The disconnect for me is, do the scenes have to be in the beginning, middle? I don't know what that means. Do the scenes, and again, I have dyslexia, so I could be just reading it weird. Do the scenes have to be in the beginning, middle, or end of a chapter? All right, this is what I think you're saying. Do chapters have to have 3 scenes, beginning, middle, and end? And the answer to that is they can, but you can also write a chapter that is 1 scene long. What is always true is whether that scene is a full chapter or that chapter has 2 scenes, 3 scenes, or 4 scenes, every chapter has to have a beginning, a middle, and end, no matter how many scenes are in that chapter. Right? There has to be a chapter arc. But every scene must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So if I have 2 scenes, those 2 scenes should create a full chapter arc. There should be a beginning, a middle, and end to those scenes. The first scene should set something up. By the end of that scene, it should technically be creating some sort of problem or conflict that leads into the second scene. And then the second scene should lead to a resolve of that problem. However, each scene in itself should have a setup of context, a problem or conflict challenge, and then, of course, a resolution. I think that's what you're asking. Obviously, if that's not what you're asking, feel free to correct me. You know, there's no judgment here. I'll be happy to do what I can to make sense of that. And again, it could be on me. You know, I sometimes I have trouble. I have to actually have, like, when I have my words are certain. I have the dyslexia words, and my screen is huge. So the bigger it is, the less I see, like, the shapes getting confused and stuff like that. Plus, I'm going blind. You know, that's why I should be wearing my glasses. Anyway, I think the scenes should be in all of them. Well, it sounds like, but sometimes it's just a scene. A scene should be the chapter. But sometimes you could have a beginning scene, a middle scene, and an ending scene. But that is, I am a little confused on I am a little confused on the question, but that doesn't mean it's not a confusing question. I guess that should be what I said. I don't know. What do I know? What do I know? Uh-oh. It's 3:30. What does multi-scenes mean? I've been wondering about that for the beats that have multiple scenes. Yes, you did explain that good. I was typing fast for I was standing up. Multiple scenes is that it has multiple scenes. Multiple scenes mean more than one. If a chapter has multiple scenes, it means it has more than one. So it has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wouldn't do more than 4 scenes in a chapter unless you're dealing with a battle scene or a heist and, like, you're jumping around to other characters. Because you could start off with one scene where it's like the introduction of a heist, and then the second scene is somebody else a part of that heist but from a different POV, and then the third scene, like, you could jump around like that a lot, especially if it's like small, quick beats. But again, it's all relative. No rule, no writing rules is definitively the way. Everything is bound to be broken, manipulated, and adjusted. And that's how we develop writing. Because if we wrote books like they did way back in the Odyssey, which wasn't even a book, it was just a poem, or the Iliad, whatever, the poem. Stories wouldn't evolve. What about the TikTok rules? I would also say you can break the rules of TikTok on marketing. Like, for example, in the Breaking Down Success book that I have, I do talk about, especially in the series, I have a whole sections for marketing, but um, I talk about how marketing is necessity, but how you go about it is up to you, because there are variables to how you can market, because comfortable levels and whatever's at your disposal. Like, you might not have $30,000 to hire a PR company and handle advertisement, etc., 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 or $30,000 to go travel and to go to events. You might not have that, so you have to work around whatever you can to market at your level, and then build and grow from there. So like, the rules of marketing can be broken to change how you are comfortable with the variable of what's available to you. So I apply that rule to everything. It's sort of like when I learned music, people were like, "This is how you have to write a song. It needs to be 1, 6, and tree, or 1, 5, and tree." All right, and you're like, "What?" Or like blues, right? And you're like, but that's not how blues all sounds. They play with that. It's not about that rhythm. It's not about the train. It could just be about chord holding. It could be about notes. It could be about melody. It could be about whatever the case may be. So, but I do recommend learning and understanding things. Again, we talked about this sort of yesterday. I don't think you need to learn the terminology full-fledged, but you do need to understand the rules. Like, you do need to know what a character's position is, but you don't need to know what the word position means, But you do need to know what do characters believe in? What do they care about? Like, what's the truth? And then how you go about that is all about breaking it up and, playing around with it. I mean, all those rules about which words to use. Oh, well, that's why I make fun of it. When people are like, you shouldn't use the word as. Was is a bad word. Don't use the word looked, saw, listened, heard. Those are filler words and filter words. Yes, they are. But if you know how to use them, they're fine. It's all about the purpose and the functionality of it. I mean, if everything was like, he looked and he saw, he smiled, he nodded, then you got to start going, all right, well, how do I switch that up? What do they say about scenes? Well, some of the main rules that they say is start in the middle, end early, right? So that's a big, big rule. That's a really good rule, but that doesn't mean you can't start before the scene. Because if what you're doing before the scene has almost its own movement to itself, and it adds to the overall emotional arc of the scene, of said scene, why can't you do it? What's wrong with that? Here's a rule that I always found funny. Prologues, don't do prologues. Prologues are stupid, and also prologues shouldn't be more than 3 pages. And it's like, first of all, prologues are amazing when they are prologuing. When they're like chapter 1, but you call it a prologue, I'll agree. It's pretty bad. Because a prologue has its own duty, its own job. But at the same time, that's like saying a chapter can only be 1,500 words. It's not true. A chapter could be 10,000 words if you really, really wanted to. In fact, there's a book, what is the longest chapter in a book? There's a book, by the way, called In Search of Lost Time. This is Marcel Proust. That book alone is 1.2 million words long. The book, not the series, the book is 1.2 million words long. However, they do release it in volumes, but you can buy the tome. There is a tome. That book, the chapters are very long. If you've read The Garden of the Shadow, what is it called? The Garden of the Shadows, right? The Garden of the Shadows. Is that what it's called? Garden of Shadows. I think that's what it's called. It might be the Red Shadow. I don't know. That book is the chapters are so dense and so long, and it was a famous book. It's a successful book. So what I say is the rules are all guidelines. They just are. And then your job is to learn as a writer is to what questions to ask, where to ask them, and how to try things. Because you won't find your voice if you just go, well, how do I have to write? Everyone says I have to write like this. You're not going to find your voice doing that. But you will discover who you are by going, you know what, I'm going to play with this a little bit. I'm gonna challenge it a little bit. I'm gonna break it and see what happens. And you might start developing who you are. How much is Stormlight Archive? The whole series? How many words is the Stormlight Archive series? 30 words. It's 2.2. Well, I'll do the whole number. It's 2,241,963 words. However, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 books, but that's also including 2 novellas. But the biggest book in the series is the worst one, which is Wind and Truth. I haven't read Wind and Truth. Don't take my word on that. But anyway. While I knew that get the words down fast or just a starting point were probably the correct answer, I still chose make it as best as possible. There's nothing wrong with that choice. I'm just trying to reframe the mindset that we as authors will put a lot of pressure on first come, first serve. It's like with music. When you're writing a song, Paul McCartney is not trying to make the first run of his song. There's documentaries and stuff like that, and like behind the scenes stuff of him. Like he's just trying stuff. He's breaking stuff. He's not breaking instruments, but he's like breaking the rules, and he's like just playing with it. And that's what you have to do as an author. And he like starts playing with chords, and then he's like, well, that chord doesn't work, but let's see what it sounds like in the verse. You know what? All right, we wrote it. Let's start moving verses and choruses. That word isn't working. Let's change that word. Like they're so comfortable with saying change it or move it or adjust it. And it's just the idea of like the first draft should be as good as possible. It shouldn't. It is the starting point. It's like coloring or drawing. You're not, if you want eyes to look great, practice eyes. But when you're sketching out an idea, especially with comic books, usually you're not drawing the detail as is. Like the final product you see on the page, that starts as like little drafts, shapes, loose, broken pencil lines or whatever the case is. So like you should look at your first draft in the same way. That's all I'm saying. But again, it's a rule. It can be break. Do whatever you want. You're an author. Insane. Yeah, it is insane how big those books are. And for the Stormlight Archives, that's my least favorite one. Yeah, I haven't read Wind of Truth. I'm okay with long books, but every one of my friends is basically saying, not that it's too long, but that it's. And I don't want to say. I'm not saying this. I'm saying This is the word that's going around. It's basically like Sanderson might be drinking Sanderson's Kool-Aid. Like it happens. Sometimes we get to the well and the well starts going dry. So then we have to start drinking our own Kool-Aid and be like, yeah, of course, I'm the guy who writes big books. But it's bound to happen, I'm on the Black Currant Lumpsit. I know that's a contradiction. I can't even think of my own name. Never mind a question. Flowers, you just sit back and relax. Enjoy the television. All right? I'll give you some beard shot. I know the beard makes you happy. You just relax. You're not feeling good. I didn't finish it. Did you not finish it because it was long? Or did you not finish it because you're just like, what is going... This is just like, come on. It's just so like... I'll be honest. even The Way of Kings, like the ending to me, I was like, why did it end there? Like, this is so bad. But everyone's like, no, it's great. You got to read like book 3 and it'll pay off. And I'm just like, well, I'm on book 1. The book is great. I'm just saying. The ending, you know. Imagine Harvin. I love that you write in the X. Imagine having to proofread that. Yeah. Imagine being the editor who's doing the line editing, not even the proofreading, the line editing. That's where you're doing line work and grammar checking and all this other crap. That's a payday. That's a payday. In my third act, in my outline, yeah. Congratulations, Hannah. Keep it going. I forced myself to finish the third book, which is Oathbringer. That book I heard is supposed to be the best book in the series, but again, I didn't get that far. I have them on audiobook right now. I read The Way of Kings. I listened to it, and then I listened to it while looking at the book, so I can kind of analyze it. You know, the first read is like, let me experience it, and the second read is sort of like, what is this about? But the third book, I think it was Rhymes of War. No, Rhymes of War is the fourth book, as per. But again, I could be wrong. I'm just looking at the thing. So I gave up. Way too long. I lost interest, and I feel like it should have ended maximum at 2 books. Ooh, that's a hot take. That's a hot take. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that is a hot take. Now I'm afraid you might not read my book is 250,000 words. It's an epic fantasy, though. Anyway, I'd feel better if the hair came out for a fluffing. All right, here you go. I'm going to fluff it up for you, okay? Let's do it. Let's fluff it up. All right, there you go. Okay, all right. Now I'm sweating. I did wash it yesterday, so it has that, like, nice... Whoo! It's so hot in Ohio. What is it? It's 82 degrees. It's 82 degrees. I got to put it away. I'm sweating. I'm sweating. It's so hot. All right. No. All right. That's much better. You're welcome. Because you're feeling down, Flowers. I gave that to you. I have a lot of books to read in queue right now, but if your book is on Audible, I'll add it to my queue. The Epic Fantasy is not yet. I'm not releasing those books as available for publishing until all 5 are released. However, the first book will be available on Patreon. First of this month, September 1st. The zero draft and all the notes and like showing you how I developed and built the book, so you'll be able to sort of get behind the scenes. It's also educational. There's a lot of like I added some asides and notes and like thoughts on things. So if you join that Patreon tier, it will be available on the 1st of September. So right now you can follow the Patreon for free. You just go there. There's a free membership. Just enjoy, and you can see what's coming, what's happening. But everyone will sort of get to see like the book developing in that tier, and but in a way that teaches you, like it's showing you like the process of outlining the short form outline, the extended outline, the zero drafts, the first draft, and then it's the first draft for the drafts. It's the first draft, the draft before the polish, and then the polish stuff. That's going to be. I'm just probably going to release those. Well, I'm definitely going to release those once the book is done, and I'm going to do like a nice 5-book package of it. But sort of like, because I like the teaching. I like the analyzation. So that's what I did. As far as the self-help book goes, it's ready to go on Audible, but there's something going on with Audible where it's like, something's going on with the royalties and everything, so I haven't uploaded it because of that yet. I'm thinking there's another way to do it. We'll have to see. The draft to end all drafts. It's the draft to end all drafts. Proofed indeed. Proofed. All right. It's a lot of fun. Did I miss anything? Did I get all the goopla on there? Did I post Manowar yet? Did I put Manowar up? Am I supposed to put Manowar up? What else? That's it. I think I did everything. I did, like and subscribe. You got to like and subscribe. All right. I think that's it. We just answered some audience questions, right? Oh! Since this is Sunday, what videos are coming out next week? Let's talk about it. What videos are coming out next week? So, next week we have... Let's see. Boop. On Wednesday, the 20th, we have a video coming out. It's a business of writing video, and it'll be talking about how to negotiate contracts with publishers. It'll basically cover contractual terms, especially like advances, royalties, subsidiary rights, and it'll offer some tips for negotiating favorable deals if and when you find yourself in that situation. As far as Friday goes, Friday will be world building video. It will explore how to add history and lore into your world to build that. And then Saturday will be a writing sprint. I will have a guest on Saturday sitting in with me to do the writing sprint. So you'll get a little special gift there. So there you go. So Wednesday is a business video on publishing. Friday is world building. And then Saturday will be a writing sprint, productivity sprint, whatever it is. Well, it'll be a nice little something. Don't worry. No Manowar. I think they paying you less than royalties. Oh, the you're talking about Audible. Yeah, they are. Yes, they are doing that. So I'm thinking of maybe just selling the Audible version through my website, where you could just, if you want it, email me and you say, I want the audio version. And then I go, all right, send me this much through Venmo or Cash App or PayPal. And then I just send you the files, and you got the files. It's easy peasy. I'm not going to tell you. You're gonna have to tune in. You're gonna have to tune in on the Saturday productivity sprint, and you get a special happy. How who is this person? You'll see. It'll be worth it. I know that beat 15 is the last beat, but is it okay to put it with beat 14? Again, you're allowed to break the rules. I wouldn't. The majority of narrative structure suggests don't. That 14 should have its own breathing room and 15 should have its own breathing room. But if you're writing a short story or a novella, now instead of chapters, they can be scenes. So when you're writing long-form narrative, I've talked about this, if you're doing the 15 beats, you want every beat to at least be a chapter long, at minimum, if not more. If you're doing the 27 plot point outline, at minimum, you want every plot point to be at least a chapter for the main plot, for the main protagonist. As far as secondary characters and subplots, those could unfold over the course of a scene or scenes or a chapter. Usually when I write the epic fantasy stuff, the main character will get a minimum of one chapter per plot point, if not more. And then the subplots, sometimes I'll give them a chapter, but it has 3 scenes in it, and those 3 scenes play out the 3 plot points for that particular character. But also, if you're writing the main plot and you're in a chapter, And though the characters who have subplots are in that chapter, you can let their subplots sort of play out within that chapter too. So you don't have to write a chapter dedicated to a secondary character to see their subplot outplay. You can, start filtering characters in. But to answer your question straight away, I wouldn't do it. But again, you break the rules. See how it goes. Try it first. See if it feels right. If it doesn't feel right, then change it up. See how it goes. Change it up. Change it up. Yeah, something like that. All right, what do we got? Let me just look at something real quick. We did it, right? We talked about what's coming up next week. We did the next week. Let's see. Yeah, all right. We got everything. All right, so there it is. Yeah. So, that's everything. MakeARightLeftHere.com. Just check that out. If you scroll them down to that's the thing I want to, because I added some stuff to the Make a Right Left Here website because I get bored. Anyway, so if you scroll down, this obviously gets you to the main book. But I got some news. I'm always updating the news. So if you want to follow me, I'm constantly updating the news on the at least once a week. I update the news. But as you can see, the writing courses are there. But Patreon is here as well, and then the shop. So I've added a whole bunch of stuff. I played with it, but I did adjust I don't know if anyone's been on it lately, but I added some. I updated the images so you could see what's coming. I still got to make some covers for this. Poetry book. So, I got some more books, fantasy books in the works. But you could also see I updated this for anyone who's interested in the process, right? So, like this book says it's step 4 to 20 of 20. So you go, oh, he's on the extended outline. But it gives you some insight into like seeing the progression of how books play out. So you can sort of like watch along and be like, oh, he's working on that. So I try to add things to whatever I can to just be more effective to help people and get people thinking. Get people thinking. Anyway, is that everything? Are we ready? Are we ready to go? Does anyone have any other questions? Or because I know Flowers wants to get a nap, get some sleep in. It's late over there for her, and she's not feeling well. I don't want to keep her up too late. I know, unless I take my hair down, then she's like, I'll just sleep with one eye open. Sleep with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight. Yeah, and tonight, and tonight. Okay, all right, that's it. We're done. To everybody out there, I just want you to know that I've been having a blast, and I hope you've been having a blast. But as all great things, we must end today's live because I need to eat some lunch or something. So with that said, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. Keep doing what you're doing, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.